At this point, I want to walk you through kind of my process for creating a new project and getting it started, creating a new Git repository and pushing it to GitHub. Now, this is the piece that you're not going to need to do if you're just cloning the repository. But I want to walk you through kind of my end of this, right? So I initially created the core application in the last section, right? We went through the Spring Initializer. We talked about all the things that we are going to need in this application. We created a base application and we tested it out. I like to do this first just to make sure the application runs and everything was configured properly before I go create my initial repo and push this to GitHub. You could do it the other way, but this is the way I like to do it. So now that I know that my application, my base starter application is working, I'm going to create a Git repository on my local machine, and then I'm going to share this project on GitHub. So let's take a look at that. Here in IntelliJ, I'm going to go up to VCS. I'm going to go import into version control and create Git repository. So you're going to pick the base of this application. So for me, it's in a Spring Boot 2 folder called Spring It. So I'm going to choose that. And when I click open, it's going to go ahead and create an initial repository for me. The way that I know that is because you start to see some files over here that look like they need some changes done to them. So if you go down to version control, it says it has unversioned 9 files. So it has a bunch of files in here that it needs to basically get pushed. Now what we can do is we could go through the command line and basically add all of these and do it from the command line if we wanted to, but I like doing everything right here in an IntelliJ. So if I close that for a second, if I come up to VCS, there is a commit. So Command K is what you'll see me do a lot. So if I hit Command K, it's going to bring up a screen here, and in this screen it's going to show me my unversioned files. So if I want to go ahead and just check them all, I can do that. And what I want to do is I want to say this is an initial commit for our Spring Boot Reddit clone. And all we're going to do is that's our commit message, and we're adding all of the files. And so what I want to do is just go ahead and commit those. So now that I've had this committed, I want to go ahead and add this to GitHub. So all we've done is commit this to our local repository, but you can't see this on GitHub yet. So what I want to do is share this project on GitHub. And an easy way to do this is to come up to VCS, and inside of import into version control, I'm going to say share project on GitHub. And when this screen comes up, we're going to have a repository name. So we're going to call this, I'm actually going to change this. I know it's our Spring It app. Actually, no, we'll just leave it with that. So we'll have Spring It. The remote origins name, or the remote name is just going to be origin, and we're going to click share. So now all that did is alleviate us having to go to the command line and basically set up the remote repository. Well, back up. So you'd have to go to GitHub, create this repository on GitHub, and then there'll be some instructions there like on how to set the remote URL or the remote repository. You have to come back, go to the command line, set the remote path for this particular repository, and then you could do a git push origin master and get it all synced up. This is just really easy to do in IntelliJ, so I just go that way. So if you click on this, it'll actually open in your browser. I have a browser window open here that I'm just going to pop up that didn't have that repository. Now when I click on it, you'll see our Spring It application. You'll see all these essentials. Again, we get that git ignore out of the box, which is not going to push up things like the out or target folders, and just it alleviates having to add all of this stuff to it. So now there is something here saying add a README. We're going to do that later in this section. But if you jump into the source and go into main and go in here, there is our main application. So this is just a really easy, this is my workflow for basically starting a new project that I know I'm going to share on GitHub or some other Git repository service. Now, that was for me to get this project up on GitHub. For you, the easiest thing to do is to go to this project right here, and you want to say clone or download. So you're going to download. If you download it, it'll pull it down as a zip. If you clone it, you can basically go to the command line, say git clone, and then use this URL. Wherever you're doing that from on the command line, that's where it's going to clone it into. Again, there's some GitHub desktop software that you can use as well to make that a little bit easier, but it's basically going to clone it down to your machine. So now you've pulled down the project, and you can go ahead and work with the project. So I hope that helps. Again, kind of showing you both sides of this, what I'm doing, what you should be doing. And in the next lesson, I'll assume that you've cloned this already, or you're just going to follow along and create your own project. But it may help to do a little bit of both. If you clone this project, you're going to be able to see all the different branches and kind of see the progression of the application. But it's also helpful for you to kind of start fresh as well. So I hope that helps. And in the next lesson, we'll jump into a little bit more about GitHub, what to add to GitHub, and a little bit of my process before we actually start writing some code. So with that, let's move on.